to another episode of the Sky Society podcast. I am so excited today because I'm talking to Qetsiyah Jacobson, and she's got so much great advice to share about freelancing and about getting into marketing without a degree. So I can't wait to dive in. Welcome, Qetsiyah.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Okay, so hi, my name is Qetsiyah, and I am a creative director at my own creative agency called Kokela Studio. So I kind of got the title of creative director because I do so many different things, but essentially I also do branding, like brand design, social media marketing, and content creation, which are our big three, basically.
Yes, you do a ton all in like the realm of marketing, and how you got there is pretty cool. But before we jump into what you're doing now with your own creative agency, I want to dive into the good stuff. So you dropped out of college 3 times in 3 years. So why and when did you decide college wasn't right for you?
Well, I think that recently, like when I dropped out for the last time, which was a couple of months ago, I just kind of realized that maybe it wasn't my path, simply because in a creative field, it's mainly portfolio based. And I had gotten so many opportunities just based on my portfolio that had nothing to do with school, essentially. So I also kind of found that I had value outside of school. So I wasn't measuring my success or measuring how much I was worth based on my school performance anymore. So because of that, I felt confident enough to drop out of school and be like, okay, this is what I'm good at and this is what I want to focus on.
I think that's so awesome. I remember the pressure of being in school and feeling like your grades just mean the world. And you are, staying up late and finals and studying so much. And then especially in marketing, you realize that first of all, your GPA just does not matter. I've never been asked about my GPA. I've had lots of students who graduate my accelerator. None of them, they're not asked about their GPA. And you feel this immense pressure to perform in school when it's literally for numbers that don't even matter when you graduate.
Exactly. It doesn't matter at all. So that's why.
I like it when I hear someone else say that, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's saying that.
Oh no, like you're right. Like portfolio matters more. Like
yes.
Focus on things that you do outside of school as well. Don't put everything on school, because at the end of the day, once you graduate, it's who you know and all the skills that you've been able to gather throughout your school career, and not necessarily your GPA that's going to get you places, to be honest.
It's who you know and what you've done, not
exactly
the stuff you can recite that you did in school, not the things that you probably memorized, or even the way you learned to write in college is so different than how it actually is to write in marketing.
Exactly.
That's a huge thing that people have to unlearn, is like, you go to college, you write long essays, big paragraphs, big words, and then you realize that blog writing is short, choppy sentences and writing at an 8th grade reading level. It's like a complete switch.
Exactly. Especially with Instagram copywriting and like TikTok copywriting,
yes.
You write really short tidbits. So
yes.
The whole essay, APA, MLA.
Yeah, doesn't even matter.
Exactly.
And you've told me you've actually so you don't have a college degree, right? You dropped out. So the highest level you have some college, and the highest degree you have is high school. And but you've actually never been asked about your education on your resume or in an interview. Is that correct?
No, sometimes it's mentioned rarely, because when I had it on my resume, maybe, but I honestly can't really remember specifically where they focused so much on my degree. I've also been in interviews or jobs that asked for a degree, but I still made it through the rounds until the last round. Maybe I didn't get the job, which is fine, but at least I got to interview. I think it's funny because a lot of the job descriptions ask for you to have a bachelor's degree, but at the end of the day, you can apply even if you don't have one. It really doesn't matter. So yeah, that's pretty much
That's a good point, because I know people that maybe have an associate's degree, don't have a degree, and they may feel discouraged. But if you can get in, and then if they really like you, they will make an exception. And I also think it's becoming less and less common to have that requirement. I think, especially now with COVID, I feel like that's changed the way that employers, look at candidates for jobs. And so I think that there's I mean, even now I see on job descriptions, it's not as common as it used to be to have a requirement be a bachelor's degree.
Exactly. It's not a requirement. And I think, again, your portfolio speaks for itself. Like it's not because you have like years of experience that you've been working at a certain job for years that you're as updated, that you have the level of depth of work that you've done like throughout the years. Like you could have, for example, if you work at a startup or you do your own freelancing, you're honing into skills that you're not necessarily would learn at school, or in a job where you do one thing every single day. So you kind of have to see it that way, I think.
Yeah. And is the way, so I want to jump into your freelancing because I think that's where you were really able to build up your portfolio. So the turning point for you started when you got your job at Chipotle, which you absolutely hated. And I think I told you my little sister also worked at Chipotle and now she's like scarred and can never eat there again. So you quit, and after 3 months you're like, I'm out, and you dove into freelancing. And so I want to dive into a little bit about like the name of your agency and the services that I know you kind of mentioned that at the beginning, but how did you get started in building your own agency and doing?
Honestly, the whole idea of freelancing came to me during the pandemic, just because I saw this girl on TikTok. Her name is Jazz, and she has one of the most viral videos regarding social media management. So if you look her up, you will probably just find her. And so, yeah, so it started back then. And so I had an idea of, the freelancing world, and I bought her like ebook, and it really taught me a lot, that I had a lot more to offer than I thought. And then I did a little bit, micro influencing here and there, during the pandemic still, because I feel like we're still in a pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever really got out of it.
I don't know. I don't think it's happening. But I moved to downtown Toronto because if anyone knew or doesn't know, I'm located in Canada. So moved to downtown Toronto. And yeah, then I don't know, I started getting more inquiries where people were asking me to help them regarding social media and graphic design. And, that itch of wanting to freelance came again. And, my boss was just the worst, no offense. And I just decided one day that I wasn't coming back. And I didn't. I was like, I'm going to focus on freelancing. And yeah, that's kind of how it started in terms of freelancing. But the name, like you asked before, sorry. So Kokela is a word in Lingala, which is a language, a tribe, one of the tribal languages in Congo, because I'm Congolese, and it means to give life to something. So yeah, to create, to give life. So because, we're giving life to ideas and dreams of people, and that's kind of where I got it from. I tapped into my own culture, and I like to, give little hints
That's
here and
beautiful.
there. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah,
I
that's
love
how
the story behind it too.
Thank you. So yeah.
So I think what you're doing right now is incredibly inspirational because there's so many people that want to do what you're doing, but they are too afraid to get started, or they don't know how to do it. Or one of the biggest things I hear for women saying when they're struggling to get a job is they feel like they don't have experience. They want to build a portfolio, but they can't build a portfolio because they don't know what to put on it. And I think that doing your own freelancing marketing work is a great solution to that. So what was the first step you took to get started? So you saw this TikTok, you got this ebook, and you're like, I can do this. What was the first thing you did to get started?
So the first thing I did to get started was work on mock projects. So there's this thing that we do in the design world where you basically create case studies or like mock projects or like fake projects, basically. I can't come up with the name right now. I'm so sorry. And you basically create something that doesn't exist necessarily, but based on a brief, right? So you get a brief, it kind of tells you like, oh, there's a client. And there's a lot of accounts on Instagram that create briefs every week, the little mini competitions, whatever it is. You can also find websites where they have briefs that you can have. And based off of that, I basically started creating brands. So, and because I was creating brands, automatically I would create graphics for social media. So I kind of had a more unique perspective because I had that design background. And then I was also focusing on social media. And I feel like that kind of I was able to differentiate myself because I had that skill with Photoshop and all those Adobe products. So I could really keep things on brand. So that's kind of how I started creating design, like little case studies and stuff. I use my own pages and my own personal Instagram as case studies. And then I compiled it all into a document where I explained who I was, what my mission was, freelancer, and my values, because you want to create this aspect where you connect with your customers, right? So kind of wrote it down and what we were able to do for them, and kind of touching on their pain points as well, and then adding the work that I've done before. And I think because I was taking them through this journey, kind of storytelling, by the time they got to the end of the whole presentation, they were kind of sold. So that was kind of my goal, because I didn't have any clients before. Like I had never done this, but at the same time, I knew I could do it. I understand the process, and that's kind of what I did. And I would reach out to many different businesses, look on Instagram, and then I would meet them either via Zoom or actually go in person and meet them to show intent. And that's kind of how I got my first clients.
That's amazing. Wow. Okay,
Thank
I
you.
have a lot of follow-up questions because you touched on so much stuff. I think that's great. So I'm gonna start at the beginning. So you mentioned that you did these mock projects, which is a really awesome idea. It's something that I also really recommend. And I know people on TikTok do it too, where they'll just like redo Instagram accounts or redo things. Can you give an example of a mock project or brief that someone can do if they're looking to get experience? And so someone listening could like take your idea and turn it into an action.
So I think because I'm not that, I mean, I am creative, but sometimes, coming up with ideas is a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best thing is always to redo an Instagram feed. I think that's, especially if you want to get into social media management, redo an Instagram feed, show how you would create graphics and for a brand, which pictures that you would use and everything, how you would do Instagram highlights and profile picture and optimize it. You can even have a before or an after of that account, because it really shows the difference. And when you write your text, you can kind of explain, this is why I have done this or made those choices and stuff like that. And that's already like a couple of pages, even if you have just one account that you're doing, right? If you want to get into branding or brand design, there are so many accounts like Brief Club and stuff like that, that weekly they post briefs for imaginary clients where they give you what the client wants, maybe sometimes the color palette and stuff like that, just so you can diversify your skill. Because I feel like sometimes as designers, you get a little bit too comfortable with your style and you don't really venture out. So I think it's really important to show versatility, because then people can come to you regardless of your style. They can come to you. So I think that's a very important one. And then for content creation, if you have your favorite products or a brand, try to create content regarding that product. So if it's a TikTok or if taking pictures, like photography, whatever it is, like take pictures. If you're really good at doing that, like stories and stuff, show that as examples, as content that you can create. There's so much inspiration on Pinterest. So, you can get creative, you can see how you can do things better and just have fun with it. I think that's the best thing to do.
Yes, I love that. So I think that's a good example of doing the mock feeds. And I think what you said that was important, not just to show the visual of before and after, but to explain why you made those changes. That's where you really can stand out and show that, you didn't just do what everybody did. I didn't just make it prettier, right? Anybody can make it prettier, exactly. But having some intent as to why you changed it and things like that. So I think that's really great. You could even do it. I've had students do it where they make a fake Instagram account. That way you can change like the profile photo. You could change all the highlights. If you don't have, or you could do that in Photoshop too, if you have skills in Photoshop. But if you don't have design skills like me, you could just like make a Finsta, make it private, and then just kind of copy the brand stuff over.
Exactly. No, it's awesome. The best way to do it.
And then, so you make these projects, you use yourself as a case study too. So you could, if you create your own content or you have TikTok or whatever, you could share that too, which I like. And you saying that you're making this presentation and you're sharing the story of not just what you can do for the brand, but what you've done, who you are, what you stand for, and what makes you special. and you present this brief to the client. How are you finding those clients?
Can I just touch upon the storytelling?
Yes, of
real
course.
quick?
Please go for it.
For the storytelling, how I like got the idea was essentially from this book called I think it's Story Brand by Donald
Yes,
Miller.
I love
Yes.
that book. Yes.
It's amazing. It completely changed my perspective on how I design, how I even do Instagram, everything. And that's how I got the whole story. So if anyone listening, you should read that book. It's so good. I reread it whenever I need to. It's amazing. But in terms of how to find clients, honestly, most of them I found through Instagram, because I think Instagram is the best way to see if someone needs social media management or branding help. So that's kind of how I did it. So one of my first clients, it was more so I worked with an agency. I did their whole branding and stuff, which was really cool. And their web design, it was really cool opportunity. But then in terms of social media management and marketing, I found this beauty supply store. Like they sell beauty and lifestyle pick products, and their Instagram feed looked tragic. It really did. And I was like, I could do such a good job at their Instagram, and I could offer both content creation and social media management. So I could, use it for my portfolio as well. So I reached out to them via Instagram DM, and I was like, hey, just presenting, introducing myself, because I was doing it through my agency's Instagram. They could immediately see some of my work. So that's a good thing. And I reached out to them and I asked what was the best way to send them an email. Then when I send the email, obviously I attach my little presentation thing, went to see them in person. So that's kind of the first way that I get my clients, is mainly through Instagram, either them reaching out to me or me reaching out to them. And then now also word of mouth, which is really cool because it means that people are happy. So
yes,
that's
that's the goal, is to get to word of mouth. So, but I think that first step is the hardest step. It's getting started is always the hardest. It's absolutely where people get stuck. And so I like your idea of just finding Instagram accounts, being like, I know I can make your account better. And then doing it from your own agency account. So you have an account that's specifically with your work and showcasing it. So you can stalk you a little bit, respond, and then you move the conversation over to email. That way you could send them a full brief and then take it from there.
Exactly. That's how we do it.
This is gold. Awesome. I'm so happy you're sharing all this. I think that you're making it I know you're further down in the process, but I feel like the getting started part is absolutely the hardest. And really so, yeah, I think that's great. Do you have any tips for anyone when it comes to first-time freelance marketers?
I think it's just start and figure it out throughout, on the way, while you're doing it. That's kind of the best tip, because honestly, one, you're always better than you think you are. So what you might think is not good is always, maybe someone will always like it or will like what you do. And then you won't really know how to do something unless you're in that position. So don't be afraid to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable, because once you're too comfortable, I feel like you need to hone in on new skills and stuff like that. So also there's a lot of groups that you can join, so you don't feel alone in this whole journey. I mean, there's yours on LinkedIn, right? And yeah, I think that's one of the best things I can say, is just start and figure it out while you do it, because it's better to start than try to be perfect, because if you wait until you're ready, you're just never going to be ready. It's not going to happen. Till this day, I started and I still feel like, oh my God, I'm not ready. But we're here almost a year later. So
yeah, I love that advice. I feel the same way. Even with my own business, I was never ready to quit my job. I've never felt ready. Even now, half the time I feel like I don't know what I'm even doing, but somehow, every day I get up and I work. And if you're just doing that, then you're moving yourself closer, and you're doing, starting is half the battle. And so once you get that going, then you could build momentum and hopefully get in a place like you are a year later, where you're starting to get clients from word of mouth.
Exactly, which is really cool.
Yes. All right. So one of the things that I want to circle back to that I think is really important that we touched on is that you don't need a degree to get into marketing. And I love that because this opens the door to so many people who feel like they're at a disadvantage. And so what is something right now, if someone's listening and they don't have a degree, what would you recommend that they do to increase their chances of getting a marketing?
I think there's so many free resources where you can get certifications that are industry recognized, such as HubSpot and what else, Hootsuite, things like that. And just if you want to start small, like I think results are always the best way to showcase work. I think right now, especially in marketing, when it comes to, for example, because social media is kind of the main marketing that I do, is they want to see results. They want to see your work. From now, people recruit people on TikTok, for example, or Instagram, and they want to see what you can do and what you can deliver. So as long as you do that, as long as you're able to showcase some type of work and present yourself in a way that there's no doubt that you know what you're doing. So, having a portfolio and stuff like that, no one's going to question you. No one is going to be like, hey, like, where's your degree? Where did you study? No one's going to ask that because they're just going to see, okay, she was able to get this many followers, or like a percentage rate of like 200% increase on followers within like a month. If you can do that compared to someone who doesn't have a degree, then obviously they're going to choose someone who's able to get them the numbers, right? So I think that's one of the most important parts. And just, yeah, again, portfolio. Always have a portfolio. That's the best thing you can have.
Yes. Portfolio and getting real results on there. I think those are the two biggest takeaways. I get asked a lot too of people are asking me if I should put my, a college project that I did on your portfolio. I don't know what your advice is, but mine always is that those don't matter as much because they're just, oftentimes they're really long slide decks that are theoretical. And I feel like the best thing is kind of what you said, where it's like, go do something and get results that show that you can, you can thrive at a job.
Exactly. I think for college projects, it depends on what you do. For example, I've had a few projects that I was really proud of, or like, especially when you're starting out and you need something on your resume, you feel like you don't have any experience. I think college projects are the best way to go. But then again, if you have other things outside of school, it's better. That's what I'm saying. So if you really don't have anything, put your college project. But if you have other things, put that in the forefront instead of your college project, because like showing your college work doesn't really showcase that you can do things from yourself, because school is kind of mandatory. You have to get those grades, you have to hand in that homework. But if you're able to have a whole project outside of school that you've done on your own, that is going to get you way more credit, because it's like, oh, she's a self-starter, for example. She has like an entrepreneurial spirit and she's organized because she's able to both balance school and balance this project. So that's kind of how you can look at it.
Yeah, it's so much harder. Obviously, we're talking through how to do this freelancing work. That's harder, and companies know that. College projects, again, those are things that if you do have a degree, everyone probably has a college project, but not everybody is taking their own time to pursue something else and get those extra experiences. So I think that's what really makes it special.
Exactly. That's the main thing.
That's perfect. Okay, so I want to transition a little bit, and I want to ask you, as a Black woman, what advice would you give to other women of color who are afraid of experiencing discrimination, either interviewing or in the workplace or getting a job because of their race or the way that they look?
I think, at the end of the day, it kind of unfortunately comes with, being born with a different skin color. But I also want them to know, and want you to know, to anyone who's listening, that use it as a strength and not something that you see as a weakness necessarily. From both a client's perspective and from a freelancer's perspective, a lot of people, feel like they shouldn't highlight their culture, or they shouldn't highlight the fact that, they might not be white. And honestly, the reason why I've gotten so many jobs is because I am Black. And because so many people are looking for different voices and different perspectives within marketing, within design. And I think that if you showcase that you're from so and so culture, it can be more of an asset than you think it is. At least for me personally, from my personal experience, it has been an asset. And I've been able to find people from within my community, outside my community, that want to work with Black designers, Black marketers, women, specifically because they know that there's a lack of, representation, or that those voices need to be heard as well, or they want to make sure that their audience can relate to all of the content that they post. And yeah, personally, I showed you my resume. My picture is on there. So they know that I'm Black. So I know that when, they interview me, they don't have an issue with it because obviously they see me. So I think that's also a good thing because they already know she's a Black woman. And I think that's also something I put in my presentation deck that I sent over, is always how much I value inclusivity, and that we also make sure to reach out to brands that have the same values as well in terms of freelancing, so we don't really encounter that problem as much. So I think, yeah, those are ways that you can avoid it, in a sense.
Yeah, I think that's a positive spin, because the unfortunate truth is that there are going to be people and companies that are going to discriminate because of race. But by being upfront and putting your picture of you right on your resume, you are attracting only people and companies that know who you are, understand your value, and want that diversity on their team. And so you are, hopefully attracting better companies that value inclusivity, and just like you do.
Exactly. So that's always really important to me. I think it's always more important to find an environment or a company that shares the same values than staying somewhere and not being happy and feeling like your values don't necessarily align. I'd rather pass up on a job than compromise kind of what is important to me as a human being, and that's okay to do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Qetsiyah, what's next for you? So you've been doing this agency for a year now. What are your dreams and your goals?
So right now I was able to have someone be a co-founder with me. So join my friend Chloe, which I've known for years. I know she will be listening to this. So shout out to her. So, just having someone extra to help in terms of design and everything is such a game changer. So hopefully I want to be able to not only provide resources, because, provide resources for marketers, but also just scale. I think scaling is what I want to do. So hopefully have a few freelancers that work with me and just get a lot more projects where I can showcase my creativity. So that's mainly a goal for me. And also start a TikTok. I need to start a TikTok. Still haven't done it specifically for my agency, but I really want to continue helping people who want to get into freelancing or want to maybe, go into marketing with not such a traditional background, such as having a college degree. So that's definitely something I'm looking to do.
That's amazing. I know you're going to keep growing, so I'm excited to see that. And for TikTok, definitely get on TikTok. I did not get on TikTok until like 2 months ago for my business. And in 2 months, I never went viral, but I was able to grow to 1,000 followers in 2 months. Like it's insane. And so it's a good way to reach a lot of people. Sorry?
That's how I found you.
I know, that's because you found me. Yes, TikTok. If you're not already in the Sky Society Women in Marketing group, it's on LinkedIn, definitely join. But most of the people in that group, I think we're at about 200 members now, and I have a bunch of requests that I just need to go through because I vet everybody to make sure they're actually a woman in marketing. But all pretty much like maybe 70% of those people found me on TikTok, which is also crazy. So
right?
TikTok
Showcases
is
the
powerful.
right? Showcases the power of TikTok.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just today discussing about how, everything used to be focused on Instagram, and for me, just seeing like how much quicker I could grow on TikTok versus like so slow, everything being so slow on on Instagram. It's been really exciting and really fun, because if you have value, I feel like TikTok will reward you for that value, regardless of where you're starting out.
Exactly. No, you're right. And Pinterest too.
I've been
I love
hearing really
Pinterest.
good things about Pinterest too.
Yes,
Yes.
especially if you're designing or doing anything like, or even marketing. If you give marketing tips, just post it on Pinterest. Like I had
Yes.
one of my first posts literally go viral. Like
On
I just,
Pinterest?
yes, it was one of my first posts on my agency, and it has over 160,000 like impressions
Oh
and
my
3,000
gosh.
people like pinning it. And it's just, I'm just shocked. I'm like, it's my first ever post. So, I mean, on that account, I did Pinterest before, but it's just, if you use the right keywords and you pin consistently, you can really utilize Pinterest a lot.
I feel like
So
we're gonna easily sidebar into like a whole marketing discussion. So we'll be here like discussing social media, which I feel like would also be fun to talk about. But we're coming up on time, so I want to end it there. The last thing I want to say is, where can our audience find you if they want to learn more about you?
So if you want to learn more about the agency, it's at Kokela Studio. So Kokela studio. And also at Yoda Chronicles, that's more personal. We're actually way more behind the scenes. So Yoda is YODA, and then Chronicle CHORN, chronic.
Yeah, autocorrect will take care of the rest.
I'm so sorry. Again, you can, yeah, I didn't go to college.
I'll link it in the no, that's not it. That's not it. No, I'm gonna link it in the description in the comments. Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. So that's the main, platforms you can find me on, like Instagram, and yeah, LinkedIn too, if you want to. That's fine.
Perfect. And she's in the Women in Marketing group too, so you could find her in there. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing such incredible knowledge. I had so much fun. So thank you, Qetsiyah.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thank you.